Obviously, Texas Tech is a front runner for many things, the playoff, the Big 12, and all that. But are they too distracted right now? Campbell, McGuire, they're looking everywhere but at the Big 12. We got to talk about BYU and other teams in the Big 12. Can they actually catch up? Is that even possible right now? It's looking like possibly so. This is College Sports Insiders. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and you can find us here where we're doing your daily football and basketball conversations 7 days a week. Let's go. Welcome to the show. Yes, welcome back in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I'm your co-host. This is College Sports Insiders. We're really glad to have you in here for another episode of the show. And this is an interesting one, man. I think at the end of the day, this is going to be one of the more interesting, at least in my opinion, one of the more interesting off seasons and seasons in Big 12 history. Jackson, on this one, we're going to be talking about a couple different topics. Obviously, BYU / got to throw some West Virginia in since that's a lot of my knowledge base. Could they be catching up to a BYU or Texas Tech in this scenario? Because obviously where we start here, Texas Tech is awfully distracted right now, Jackson.
Oh, man, just really distracted. It's been about Brendan Sorsby, or it's about seeing if Texas wants to get rid of their season opener, and if Texas Tech wants to get rid of their season opener and just buy those games out and have a game against Texas either in Austin and Lubbock or at the Jerry Dome. So it's like it's either that, but BYU is thinking about what we're planning for 2026. That's what everybody at BYU is thinking about. They're thinking about, we got past everybody, but we couldn't get past Texas Tech last year. This might be the chance to do so.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those ones where it's like, you're kind of projecting a little bit, you're guessing on some things, but my overall take is this, and this is just kind of how I'm going to frame it. If you look at the story here and everything that entails, there's a lot to it, especially when you consider the fact that BYU has gotten stronger themselves over the offseason. So are the teams in the Big 12 are obviously stronger as well. But, I just think that Texas Tech right now is such a distracted program. Texas Tech has become the center of almost every major story in college football this offseason. Their quarterback's fighting the NCAA. Their biggest booster is trying to reshape college athletics. Their head coach is publicly taking shots at Texas. They're involved in lawsuits. They're involved in eligibility fights, national reform discussions. And while all that's happening, BYU is kind of building up, want to be one of the most complete rosters in the Big 12, along with a couple other teams in the Big 12 too. I think Texas Tech is a little wounded right now. I'm not saying they can't win it. I'm not saying they shouldn't still be favorites. I'm not taking a shot at you guys. I'm truly asking, because the simple question is, had it been the way things were supposed to be, obviously Texas Tech is number one. It's really not even a question. But I think the question has to be asked now, has BYU actually caught Texas Tech? Because 6 months ago, that would have sounded kind of silly. I think most people would have said they're solid number two. The biggest problem Texas Tech faces probably isn't the NCAA. I know everybody wants to talk about Sorsby, understandably so, but I think this is a quarterback Texas Tech built their season around, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a quarterback that they thought would lead a playoff push. Instead, they're talking about appeals and courtrooms and all these other things. The NCAA's denied Brendan Sorsby at this point. We know that. The appeals haven't worked. More news continues to come out about the amount of money and just how serious his situation was with the gambling. I mean, I'm not trying to make it worse than it is. I'm not trying to amplify it or anything like that. But it's certainly an odd situation.
Right.
Jackson,
Yeah, because when
be
they
right back.
got Brendan Sorsby, right, they didn't get him to just get another Big 12 title, right? They got him to see if they could get a playoff win or two, a run to the semifinals. I don't think they were expecting a national title, but they were thinking maybe we can go on a huge playoff run. I mean, the schedule looks pretty easy, right? I mean, the home schedule, that's where you got your toughest games. I mean, you got your Big 12 opener on Friday night against the Houston Cougars. Houston's looking to kind of jump on their 2025 season where they had a 10-3 season. Have a little something better than that, right? Houston, I know they're going to be contending. Our guy Lucas Hill from his channel, you can check him out. Like, he's got some magic all over the place. He was having stated a program with Parker Ainsworth. I've not seen it yet. Shout out to our good buddy Parker Ainsworth and Lucas Hill, bringing that magic, talking about the Houston Cougars. But we will definitely get to that in our second segment about BYU catching up, but also West Virginia, Houston, and a few others. But honestly, Texas Tech looking pretty distracted. I mean, they're sitting there thinking about Monday. They're thinking, okay, maybe this court case will say, okay, we're going to have Sorsby. We're going to be able to have Sorsby for 2026 until the NCAA says he can't play. It wasn't what they planned on. It's not what they planned on whatsoever. They thought it was just going to be, sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. But it's not been. And it's not going to be. Not saying the 2026 season will be a failure for Texas Tech. You know what this feels like? It feels exactly like the 2010 season for the Oregon Ducks. I'm not saying Texas Tech's going to go to a run to the national title today. That's not happening. But I'm just saying the circumstances are just eerily similar. Because you had Jeremiah Masoli, where he was getting in trouble and all kinds of stuff. And it got to a point where he couldn't play. He couldn't play for Oregon 2010. They told him, no, you're just going to have to wait till 2011. And he just says, no, I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting. So what happens next? Oregon goes Darren Thomas, and the rest is history. Maybe we see something like that for the Texas Tech Red Raiders for 2026. Maybe we see a pretty good season for them. And, as Lucas says, Houston will be the Big 12 champion, hands down. Big 12 will have a 2-bid playoff. Sorsby's done. No judge in Lubbock County will take his case. What's up, fellas? How are y'all doing? Doing all right, good buddy. We are glad to see you. Glad to see you, good buddy. Oh, man, nice. That's awesome. But I can tell you, this will be a fun ride for the Red Raiders. We will definitely wait and see what happens. As for BYU, they were sitting there waiting for something like this. Because like last season, the Cougars, they whooped everybody. The one of the teams they had a hard time with was West Virginia. I mean, you would not think it by looking at the final score, but they were having a bit of a tough time with them. Because they smacked Stanford off face the earth. They have a tight one against Colorado. Yeah, I mean, Colorado is one of the few games they had a tight one against. Arizona was another one. And, they got through Iowa State, but they just cannot get through Texas Tech. They were able to get through Georgia Tech and the Pop-Tarts Bowls, kind of set up momentum for that 2026 season. But you look at that schedule, right? And they could get it done. They could get done. I like where Caden's going with it because, BYU is a dangerous team. I can agree with that. And Mountaineer Paul is getting something from DoorDash right quick. He's coming back, but I can tell you right now, we'll be having a pretty amazing segment in segment 2 as we're cracking a little cold water dew right here. But I can tell you, booyah, that's gonna be a wild one. But any questions y'all got, y'all put them in the chat, and we will make sure to answer them as much as possible. This channel is at 221 subs away from that magic number 500. We would love to get it there, and we can't get there without your help. We appreciate you guys very much for tuning in on this late episode of College Sports Insiders right here. And I think I hear Paul. There we go. And that will be our cue to ask him. Here we go. We'll definitely wait and see what happens with Tech. But I think, honestly, their schedule, in my opinion, is their saving grace for a good season for 2026. They may not have the season they would like to have, but that just tell me it's a wild ride. And Paul is back.
I'll tell you what, DoorDash showed up at the wrong time, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where'd you leave off?
I was talking about Texas Tech and their schedule for a little bit. And, I talked a little bit about, Lucas's comment where he said, and shout out to Lucas for where he does a fine job on his channel. Because he was taught on the Southern sports scene. Why did I forget that channel for a moment? Anyway, because he said that Houston be the Big 12 champ. Big 12 will have a 2-bid playoff. Sorsby's done. No judge in Lubbock, Texas is taking his case. And he wants to see how we were doing.
I like Lucas. He's a good guy. I disagree with this. I do think Houston's a good football team, but West Virginia absolutely dominated them last year, and we had almost nothing. So to me, like, there's something in that program. Like, if that West Virginia team was able to put up 300 rushing yards on you last year with the team we had, I have some questions about them moving forward that I just need to see them answer. Now, it doesn't mean they can't do it. I mean, like I said, I think Houston has – I got to turn my light on here. Sorry. I think Houston has the quarterback. I think they got a lot of pieces in place, but I don't know about the toughness. I know Willie's, known for that, but I haven't seen it in Houston yet. So we'll see. But West Virginia whooped them all up and down the field last year and made them look really bad. So I just want to see where that's at this year. But, as far as this situation with BYU, Texas Tech goes, my question about BYU, obviously, well, not my question about them, but my opinion about BYU is that they're probably the next most complete team. You can make an argument for Houston. It's definitely not crazy to say that. I just want to see about in the trenches. I want to see where they're at. I know where BYU's at in the trenches. They're solid there for sure, if not very good to elite. So I think they're going to be fine. They've got one of the best running backs in college football. Unfortunately, they lost Parker Kingston, who I think was a weapon. But I do like what they have. And obviously, Bear Bachmeier, does he take the year 2 leap? If you look at the quarterback situations now, you would say that BYU is ahead there for sure. And then you would just have to go and see. Talent-wise, I still think Texas Tech is, even without Sorsby, I still think it's the most talented team. It really just depends on if they can acclimate Will or not, because he at quarterback is very talented as a runner. If you can make that a running team, I like that team in that aspect now, because they have one of the more sneaky running backs in the country at Texas Tech right now. And that kid is a absolute unit to try to bring down. I would not have to tackle him, Jackson.
No, because he'll beat my eyes out if I try to tackle him.
But my overall theme is like, basically, you've got these different things. Joey McGuire, are you focusing on the right thing? Is playing Texas in week 1 really smart? I'm not saying it isn't. I'm asking the question for the audience to answer, because I have questions about that. If that's where your focus is, there's an old saying that I heard in recovery when I first got clean, and it's focus goes, energy flows. right? So it's literally impossible not to divert your energy into something that you're focusing on, right? It's just the way life is. So women are more prone to multitasking than men, but men definitely not. And so focus goes into, energy flows into, and Texas Tech's focus is on a lot of things right now, but I don't know that it's on this Big 12 race. And you had one great year. You're not a great program or team yet. You still have a lot to do to get there, year over year. I'm not saying West Virginia is better. I'm just saying, I think Texas Tech is ascending pretty quickly here, or at least trying. I mean, they're really trying to put themselves, and I get it from an eyeball standpoint. It looks good to put yourselves in the same limelight as a Texas, but I don't know, man. To me, it could be a mistake because you drag Texas into the conversation because Sark said something stupid. It was an epic own. You owned the hell out of him, no doubt about it. Texas Tech responds, McGuire responds, Campbell responds, everybody responds. And I just keep saying to myself, well, Texas is gone in the SEC and they're chasing national championships. They're playing Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, or whoever, right? I don't know if they're playing Ohio State, but they're not thinking about Texas Tech, huh?
Yeah, Texas played Ohio State week 2.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know if they play them again this year, though. So that's what I'm starting to see, a contrast with BYU, because BYU doesn't seem to be interested in proving anything. I think they're interested in winning this year. And one mindset looks a little more backward or inverted, and the other one looks a little bit more forward thinking for me. But once again, Joey McGuire is he's proven not to be afraid to call people out. And that's kind of what they do. Let's go to a quick break and talk about what BYU's been doing here this offseason, Jackson, and maybe you can pull up a list of their offseason as far as high school and portal and stuff, and we'll talk about more of that right after the break here on on College Sports Insiders. Lord. And we're back. Obviously, we don't have any ad reads yet. We're going to get them soon. I'm in conversation with one or two people about potentially sponsoring this channel. So obviously, it still needs to grow some, but there are some people interested in it, even as it is, because they know it'll grow as long as I put my effort into it with Jackson and Troy as well, whenever Troy has time to come back. But okay, so if you look at the 2025 season for BYU, it was as good as it could have probably gone, just about. I mean, you're right there on the fringe of the playoff. You had an incredible freshman quarterback come in and play well at times. He looked like a freshman at times. You had an overall season of winning and then go to your bowl game and perform pretty well. And now you load back up with Power 4 transfers. And, I think BYU has quietly assembled a very grown man type roster. And I mean grown man. If you look at this team, they're really old, they're really experienced, they're physical, and it's loaded with Power 4 bodies. And this isn't a plucky underdog story, in my opinion. I think BYU isn't just this little cute team that everybody hoped wins the fight. Like, this is a roster that's built to win now. And you look at everybody they've got on this team right now, and it's interesting. I mean, they've loaded up. If you look at Cade Uliave, the linebacker from Cal, one of the best linebackers in the portal. Jake Clifton, the linebacker from Kansas State. They literally, the two linebackers they lost last year, and Kelly and company, are, I don't want to say replaced, but they've definitely done a good job getting those guys in. They get a Samoan from Washington and Paki Finau, another excellent player, one of the best in the portal. Kyler Casper, one of the best wide receiver prospects in the country, comes in. Every dude they brought in is a slam dunk. Walker Lyons, the USC tight end, one of the most athletic dudes in the portal, can block. Sally Piaga, the tight end from Oregon, as well. There's another tight end, and you can see what their plan is from there. They brought in another Samoan from Utah State, another offensive lineman, Sia. Jabin Williams from Mississippi State, and then Zach Yamachai, or however you say that name, from Stanford. And, 9 transfer additions On3 has them at 9 with incoming with only 13. Only 13 outgoing into the 2026 cycle. That's very impressive to me, right? So when you look at it, basically overall 21 high school signees, I believe it was, from what I remember reading a couple of months ago, although I haven't checked to make sure that's correct, so don't hold me to it. I think it's in that realm for them. Obviously Ryder Lyons is another piece of this. The 5-star Jackson, they bring in one of the highest rated quarterbacks and recruits in the history of the program, 98 score. Kalani Sitake, he may be a guy that if Bear Bachmeyer struggles at all, Ryder Lyons could come in and potentially be a savior right away for them. And then you're talking about they really ascend if he turns out being, because we know guys can play as freshmen these days. And you look at what he did. He topped 3,000 years every year he was at in high school at California with 10,000 passing yards, almost 2,000 rushing yards, 118 touchdowns, 52 rushing touchdowns at Folsom High School. I mean, what a career this kid had to be a top quarterback recruit. They bought a bunch of other guys in as well. So, I think this is a BYU team that's loaded back up. They know where they need their deficiencies were. And this is going to be an interesting offseason for the Cougars, Jackson.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, especially when you got the Walker BYU Cougar Ranger in Walker Lyons. He's going to be bringing that magic for the Cougars. Like the defense has been one of the magical parts, like for 2020 now, but it's going to be magical for 2026 again. Just like you and I remember last season, all we heard was how BYU was so screwed without Jake Ratzlaff, right?
Right.
But people that said that clearly did not take a good look at the whole roster. They just looked at one part of the roster and threw the baby out with the bathwater. And, it was like, there you go. You watch what BYU did last season. They only lost twice. There's the Texas Tech. That was it. This year, looks like they can take the Big 12 all for themselves.
Very possible. Very possible. Now, obviously, you lose Jay Hill, and I totally should have mentioned that sooner, as well as Guilford, the cornerbacks coach, to Michigan. So, obviously, gosh, Witt, he leaves Utah, and he wrecks both programs on the way out the door. He's like, man, I'm gonna take both these dudes. He got relation. He went to BYU. He's obviously a Utah legend. So he's like, screw it. I've got a little clout at both of these spots. So let me take one of the best defensive coordinators in the country with me to Michigan. So, yes. And then obviously Kalani Sitake made several promotions from within, I believe, and a couple outside hires. Kelly Papinga comes in, who was I think he was the defensive ends coach and special teams guy, from what I remember when I was up there. Sione Pua comes in to fill as the associate head coach. I know they made a couple other hires. I can't remember them all, guys, off the top of my head. But, I think that they did a pretty good job. Now, look, it's going to be almost impossible to replace Jay Hill, I think. I mean, he's just – the job he did there for them at that program it's incredible, right? So – I'll be very interested to see in what that defense looks like again next year, Jay or Jackson, because Jay Hill was an elite coordinator. Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, because no doubt, like the defense, Kelly Papinga as your new defensive coordinator, because he's promoted from within. He's going to be he's a solid replacement for Jay Hill. And, we're going to wait and see what happens for the 2026 season, but it's going to be all good for everybody at Provo, Utah. But, as we head on the second segment, BYU West Virginia catching up, something's telling me the rest of the Big 12, like you're seeing Houston and a few other schools like, Arizona State, because I know Arizona State's wanting to bite at the Big 12 as well. They're so starved to get back in the Big 12 title game. They want to get there so bad. I'm not really feeling like TCU, like Baylor's not a contender, obviously, I don't think. But Arizona is looking like they can have a say in it.
For sure.
Because, I mean, like the Arizona school's scary. You know, Oklahoma State's looking to rebound nicely. Utah,
they're in an interesting spot.
Really continue what Kyle Whittingham built.
I mean, they lost so much. Certainly they can be in the conversation with talent. Offensively, they returned Dampier, they returned a lot. But I would say, being that he took so much with him out the door, obviously the defense probably will be very good again. But, obviously the offensive coordinator and everybody they lost, I just would say I think it's fair to pump the brakes on Utah as a top 3 team, maybe. I would keep them in the conversation for – let's see what it looks like first. If they keep on rolling, then yes, they're in the conversation for title. But I don't know, But I was going to look at BYU really quick before we move on to West Virginia for a second, because I do want to toss West Virginia's name into the hat just for a second, obviously just as a selfish, guilty pleasure. But, I think the BYU 2 deep, this is what I have from before spring. I've got a 2 deep of every roster in the Big 12 saved. So I think Bear Bachmeier is your starting quarterback, obviously. LJ Martin, Siano Moa, Preston Rex, all going to be really good running back rotation, possibly one of the best in the Big 12, definitely with LJ Martin returning as the most physical running back in the country. JoJo Phillips comes in and backup is Nakua. They've got Casper, as we said, from Oregon. He's probably going to start. And then Frischnecht, I believe it is the backup there. Cody Hagan, who really came on strong last year at times, great route runner. And Tiger Bachmeier will back him up, I'm pretty sure. You mentioned Walker Lyons coming in from USC, was a huge pickup for them. They also got Celia Piaga. Celia Piaga is a hard one to say. Now, interestingly enough, they picked up a Michigan transfer out of Andrew Gentry. They got Fanal from Washington at the left guard spot. I think Bruce Mitchell starts at center. They've got the Southern Utah kid at the right guard spot, and then Osler at right tackle. But they do have some other guys that could possibly be in that rotation. Sia from Utah State, as well as Yamuchi from Stanford. So on the defensive side of the ball, I think BYU is going to go with Bodie Schoonover. I'm not really sure how to say his last name. Tanavasa returns in the middle, one of the best defensive tackles in all of college football alongside Justin Kirkland. So that forms one of the best duos in the defensive lines in all of college football. Name it, SEC, name it. It doesn't matter. Those two are going to be as really, really tough to stop duo right there. And then they obviously added Nusi on the end as the other edge for there. Now they do have a Texas transfer and Akana that comes in. And I'll be honest, this defensive line for BYU could be better than last year. And last year was one of the best ever in school history. Linebackers, obviously Ciala Isera, Cade Olawave, the Cal transfer, and Isaiah Glasker is still back. So you lose Kelly, one of the greatest linebackers in school history, no doubt about it. Jake Clifton from Kansas State, Ace Kafuski, and his brother Micah are all in that rotation for backups. It's also one of the best linebacker rooms in the Big 12. Obviously, Olawave was an all-ACC guy at Cal. Glasker is one of the best linebackers in the country, bar none. Name a guy, he's in that conversation for linebacker. So this defense is already freaking elite, top, possibly a top 10 defense in the nation. Jonathan Cabella, Evan Johnson at corner, one of the best corners in the country. Javen Williams comes over from Mississippi State. He was one of the best in the SEC last year. Raider DeMooney was one of the most hard-hitting safeties in the country last year. Like they've got, and then you got Satuala at safety as well alongside him. This is a nasty defense. I don't know what they're going to be on offense, but I'm telling you right now, man. And they got Tommy Prasis as well. still back. I mean, good Lord, y'all. Like this group on defense is insane. Truly. If you just want to go head to head, quarterback you give to BYU right now, unless something crazy happens and they get another guy somehow that we don't foresee, or somebody steps up on the roster to be really good. Running backs are really fun. I think that's definitely, gosh, man. You know, I don't know. Where would I go there? I mean, they're both so good. I don't know who I would pick over Dickey or Martin, but goodness gracious, they're both.
I'm not with LJ Martin. He will be going footloose.
Cameron Dickey, though, like if you look at him last year, they're similar style players. They're both rough, tumble, elite tackle breaking guys. We'll see what they end up being. Offensive line, I give the advantage to BYU for sure, 100%. I think their offensive line is completely intact. It was really talented. I give the linebackers to BYU. I give the tight ends a huge advantage to BYU. The culture and stability, I don't know. That's a close one. I would say stability is a little waffling right now for Texas Tech for sure. Culture is great at Texas Tech. I'm not questioning that. Like what the swagger and everything that Joey McGuire has is great. But I mean, like, you know, BYU's got so much continuity with Sitake and everything. NIL, obviously, Tech has the advantage, and that's what makes this really interesting. Tech's ceiling is higher, but I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think BYU is a program that can 100% get into the race and potentially be a contender. So, Jackson, West Virginia, the Mountaineers, really quick. Can we jump in here and talk a little Mountaineers? Did you have anything else you wanted to say first?
Not anything at the moment.
Well, what's your gut saying on the Mountaineers right now, Jackson?
I think they're going to be the turnaround team of the Big 12 for 2026. Their schedule is good enough to beat a 9-3 season. And I think they can get that 10th win in the bowl game, because whoever they play, you know, the team's not going to be motivated. They're likely to their stars are likely to be sitting out preparing for the 2027 NFL draft, whereas a lot of the guys at West Virginia are wanting to end 2026 with a bang and set up some momentum for 2027. That's
right.
where things are at for the Mountaineers.
Yeah.
I really benefit from Virginia having to recover from that Brazil trip from 3 weeks before.
Right. We're all going to know if West Virginia wins. Here's what I've said the whole offseason. If West Virginia wins week 3 at Virginia, the team coming off 11 wins that returns maybe the best defensive line in the ACC, definitely one of the best defenses in the ACC. In offense, it's really a quarterback away from being really good again. That won 11 games last year, like they returned their entire offensive line. They returned their entire defensive line. They return a couple of their linebackers. They return a couple of their safeties. They return a lot of their skill guys too. The only thing they're missing is their quarterbacks. And, you know, Virginia's a team, I think. I mean, you won 11 games last year. That's nothing to sneeze at. Now, are they an 11-win team again this year? I'm not saying that, but could they be an 8 to 10 win team? Yes. So I think if West Virginia goes there, you know, a neutral site game and beats Virginia, it could definitely just be an upset. But I would say that the expectation for West Virginia would have to drastically shift to contender. Not saying you could win it at that point. I don't think West Virginia is a Big 12 contender this year to win. I think we're potentially a rung below that. I'm not like kind of like a Houston last year, but maybe not 10 wins, maybe like 8 or 9 is my personal opinion. And I know a lot of people probably think even that's optimistic, but I follow this team every day. I know what we have in the building now. And last year we just didn't have anything close to this. And we've had the same number of players come in, but like I say, you know, whenever this comes up every time, the quality of player we brought in this year was as good as anybody else in the league. We had a top 20 recruiting class in high school, a top 20 portal class. We brought in multiple 4-star guys. So I think, there's a lot of optimism in Morgantown. Our quarterback has to hit. That's the biggest question for us. Is Mike Hawkins Jr. going to be the flashes that he showed at Oklahoma, which there were times when I had Oklahoma's play-by-play or their color commentator, the guy that does the color, not the play-by-play. I had him on the show, and we played several clips from his show that they have where they were saying Mike Hawkins Jr. was better than your boy at Oklahoma several days during practice last year, Jackson. I know you love that Oklahoma guy.
Oh, Michael Hawkins Jr., man, I tell you what, he's awesome, man. I mean, people that talked about how bad he was, well, that's because he was coached by a guy named Joe John. He doesn't have to worry about Joe John Finley at all.
I was talking about John Mateer, though. They were told, obviously that what he came on the show and says was listen, I've been said multiple times on his show as well. He said, that he felt Mike Hawkins Jr. had more upside than John Mateer, which is crazy to me. I had to wait and see that before I believe it, but certainly it gets me excited. And we know Mike Hawkins is a 4-3 guy in the run game, so dynamic for sure. But can he come in and run an offense to that level year one? It would be awesome if he could. I have my doubts that it could be Big 12 championship good, I guess. But for those of you listening that maybe don't listen or know a lot about West Virginia this year, West Virginia is a really interesting study because you bring back Rich Rod, who was a retread hire, who had our second most successful time in the history of the program. Some would say most, but Don Nehlen got to the national championship game in 1988. That's hard to beat that. And had another undefeated season in 93. So Rich Rod, what he did, obviously, 10 or 11 games every year, and one game away from the national championship game is right there with it for sure. And then obviously being not a pioneer, Rich Rod literally invented the zone read. Even Urban Meyer admits it. Even Dan Mullen admits it. They all admit it. They learned it from Rich Rod. So, so he has a certain edge to him about this offense that he created it. And certain people have turned it and done cool things with it, but I think Rich Rod knows what makes this offense go. But Jackson, before I turn it over to you for another comment or two, West Virginia knew what they needed to get better at, which was offensive line. They invested heavily, somewhere between $4 and $6 million. I keep fluctuating on the number as different numbers come out, but it's a heavy investment on the offensive line. And I think it's one of those groups where, because of who they brought in, obviously they brought in a Power 4 transfer from Kansas State and Devin Voss, a guy they paid a lot of money for, or whether that's one of the UConn tackles from last year that had a 2,000-yard rusher, and Karsten Cassidy, who's 6'7", 310, or whether that's Wes King from Wyoming, who has never allowed a sack in his career. Obviously the Jacksonville State transfers come in, whose running back led all of college football last year in rushing, in Cam Cook, and they brought Cam Cook. So you bring in the leading rusher in college football, who also had 1,600 rushing yards with 300 receiving yards, and you've got two of his offensive linemen that are both probably going to start. You obviously brought in a bunch of other pieces to make that offensive line potentially elite, but I think it's going to be very good. And you've got the best one of the 2 or 3 best running backs in all of the Big 12 running behind it. If Mike Hawkins can be that 4-3 guy from a run perspective, and he can just get it a little on the passing side, because our receivers obviously have come a long way as well, which is another topic. But I think for the offense specifically at West Virginia, there's potential for it to be elite, like a top 25 or top 30 offense. Defensively, there are a lot of questions, and that's kind of where you get into the weeds with West Virginia. Zach Alley said he feels like he hasn't. Keep in mind, he coached at Clemson and Oklahoma, and is on record said it's one of the best nickel safety rooms he's ever had because of the guys he brought in. Obviously, you look at Jameer Latimer, who had 4 interceptions for him at Jacksonville State before he went to Wisconsin, and now he reunites with Zach Alley to play that nickel spot. Andrew Powdrell was one of the best players on UNLV's team last year on the defensive backfield. You add Matt Sig, who is the number one, rated defensive player in the state of Pennsylvania, to play a safety spot. He'll probably play a lot as a freshman, along with Memphis transfer. That I mean, Wilson's one of the more interesting players in this group because Kamari Wilson was an absolute 5-star stud coming out, transferred from Florida to Memphis and broke out. So he's at a safety spot, and our safety room's totally just absolutely. I would say by the end of the year it'll be a top 3 group in the Big 12. Corners are a big question mark for us. So it's linebacker. There's a lot of talent and bodies they brought in there, but we don't know how they're going to mesh yet. There's only a couple returners. Defensive line has a lot of returnees as well, but unfortunately there is, outside of that, not a lot. I think linebacker and corner are pretty big questions for the defense, and it's just a lot to get to mold together all at once. It'd be one thing if 1 or 2 of those things were cool, new, but they're all new. So the talent's there, and I guess that's what I'm trying to say is the talent's there. I don't know if they'll be good enough, quick enough to challenge for a Big 12. I would lean no, obviously, but I do think we can be a very dangerous team. By the end of the year, we're going to have a huge offensive. I would imagine our offense is going to be very good. Cool. So Big 12 contender, that's a little rich, but what do you say, Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll be like going to the Big 12 title, of course. Like that's not going to happen, but that schedule does look good for the Mountaineers, where it's like they can have a 9-win season where they're telling everybody, hey, this is our turnaround year. Wait till you see us in 2027 and in 2028.
Well, I mean, West Virginia plays 5 games before it goes on the road. That's one thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a neutral site game, but that's not a road game. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So you play 5 games before you ever go on the road for the first time if you're West Virginia.
Yeah, because
that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, you got 4 straight. Yeah, like three out of the first 4 are home, and there's that neutral site with Virginia, of course. That they ain't got Ames, Iowa. That's all
against it, but it's a team that's completely wrecked. They lost Matt Campbell and every single player they had.
That is true.
They're not the same Iowa State as they usually have. I don't even think, I mean, they're just totally wrecked. I mean,
they're gonna have y'all are gonna be thinking about Arizona while they're like thinking about West Virginia, like because it's like that just screams for some reason trap game zone for the Mountaineers, like because you're coming off 2 straight good games against Virginia and Oklahoma State, and after Iowa State, you got Arizona coming to your backyard. That does scream trap game for some reason to me. Like going to Ames, Iowa, like you said, they're completely wrecked. But
and look at this. Think about this. Not only did you lose Matt Campbell, but you could say arguably the best, one of the greatest innovators of the last 7 or 8 years specifically, but one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in the entire country is who?
Mm-hmm.
John Heacock.
Yeah,
he retired.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone. As my dad would say, he's a gone Gosling. So he's gone from Iowa State. So you lose Matt Campbell and your greatest defensive coordinator ever? Like,
yeah,
that's a lot to lose, man. And you got to replace everybody. I don't see how anybody can expect them to be good this year. Very much like people were telling me that last year, and I wouldn't listen to them about West Virginia. It's so funny when you're not in that position. It's like so clear to see, but when you're in the middle of it, because I have so much information about it, it's like you're living on hope.
You see somebody or something you love, you see everything through rose-colored glasses. Yeah. You don't want to take them off just yet, but then once you take off the rose-colored sunglasses, you see the burning. You see the fire in the dumpster fire, and the gasoline being poured on it.
Right. That pork and cop.
Oh man, we've been up late.
Yeah. It's 12:30.
Yep, 12:30 in Mountaineer Paul's time, and it's 11:30 in my time.
Yeah.
Paul is ahead of me by an hour, man.
Yep.
Oh man,
Guys, let us know how you feel about this. We're going to go ahead and bounce. It's late. Like the video before you go, please. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you're watching on X, please come over to subscribe to College Sports Insiders. We'll be covering the entire Big 12 and more. So we would love to have that. I'm going to try to be as neutral as I can for this. Obviously, we're going to talk about West Virginia some, obviously, a lot. Not just some, but a lot, probably. But we're going to be talking about all college sports here. It's all everything. And it's just kind of what topics we like to talk about that week or that day. We're going to try to turn this into an everyday show as well. It's right now, there are a couple obstacles to that, but we'll get over them. Very worse, it'll be every other day. So there'll be content going up on the channel, and Jackson's working hard behind the scenes to get shorts out and different things. So we're going to put a lot of work into it. Hopefully you guys like it.
And we're going to be bringing you some guests that you'll be loving, from Voice College Football to Locked On to 247 to On3, and a few people that you see on your favorite YouTube videos. All right here. You'll be seeing them here as special guests. All right here on College Sports Insiders.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Jackson. So we started out talking about Texas Tech. Are they too distracted? Very interesting conversation when you consider they're looking, you've got the biggest donor in the country trying to fix college football and align with Donald Trump and, or Ted Cruz or whoever it is that they're aligning with to fix college football, or at least try. Obviously, you've got Joey McGuire, who is kind of looking, as my dad would say, out both sides of his neck, son. He's what my dad say, one's scared and the other is glad of it. Whenever two guys will be wanting to fight, one's scared, the other one's glad he's scared. That's Texas and Oklahoma. It's Texas Tech right now.
Yeah,
one's scared and the other one's glad of it. Or my dad would say, if you wanted to fight him, he'd say, "Well, you got her to do, son. If you want to whoop this ass, you got her to do." Oh man, I miss my dad. He was good. He was so much better of a person than me, just in every way, and tough. And my side story on my dad, because like people love stories about my dad. My dad was working for Pike Electric in Tampa, Florida in 1987 and got into 7,600 volts. And it completely destroyed him, obviously. Cooked him. He was cooked, as they say. He was in a bucket, and they brought him down. He had third-degree burns over 80% of his body. His clothes caught on fire, so that was where a lot of the burns came from. But just the sheer heat from that cooks you. And in the 80s, there just wasn't a lot of that burn treatment was come a long way, and even in the last 40 years. And so my dad, they said they had him on so much medicine, he was hallucinating, because the only way that they could get clothing out of the skin in that day, I mean, it's horrific to think about. I can't imagine a torture worse, but they would have to put you in a hot tub, a boiling hot tub, and literally scrub the clothing out of your tissue that was third-degree burnt. And he said that it took 6 nurses, men, to hold him down in that thing.
Wow.
But he never took it for granted, man. I hate that he passed away, but he ended up having a prosthetic arm for that. We had so many fun times. On Locked On Big 12, I told this story, and it's a really good one, and I'll let us go after this. But we were fishing off the pier and in Tampa Fort Myers, Florida. And my dad had a skin colored, we can share screen on here, can't we, Jackson?
Yeah.
Let me get it pulled up really quick.
I mean, it's our thing, so we're good.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Let me get to a picture of my dad really quick. Hold on one second here.
All right.
But yeah, he had a skin colored prosthetic arm. And let's see. Okay, hopefully it shows it. Trying to find a good one anyways. Okay, well, we'll show you guys a couple pictures of my dad here. I have never actually shown him to anybody, but this is my dad. There he's in a West Virginia shirt. There he is with my mom. There we are. We're at Disney World. Here he is before he ever lost his arms, right there. But so here he is when he got sick towards the end. Unfortunately, you can see he had a hook on, but it's hiding behind my mom. Unfortunately, let's see. Try to find one where he's actually showing his arm. It's hard to. I can't believe that his arm's not showing in any of these. His prosthetic arm. Oh, here we go. Perfect. There it is, right there. So you see how it's like a prosthetic arm. And you see where my love for the Mountaineers comes from. But that prosthetic arm is flesh colored.
Wow.
And so we were fishing off the pier in Florida. And my dad had a long sleeve t-shirt on. I'll never forget this as long as I live. My dad, because he just didn't think about it, if a fish swallowed his hook, he'd just pull it out. He'd just get in there and reach in and get it. And he hooked into a 3-foot long hammerhead shark, and it swallowed his lure. And he just reached into that thing's mouth, down its throat, and pulled the hook out. I mean, it's chomping away at this arm, putting bite marks in it. Obviously, to him, he didn't even think about it because he knew it wouldn't hurt. And this woman, he noticed this old lady was looking at him in just total horror. Like, oh my God, this guy just stuck his arm down a shark's mouth. And I looked up at her and she was going, she was holding on to her husband. I can't remember his name, so I'll make one up. Oh, Fred, like, and my dad noticing this had comedic timing. He had, so, because the way that arm was fit on, he could just pop it off. I don't know how he kept it on there, but I don't know if it was suction or what, but he could just pop it off, like with his muscle, kind of undo it. And he popped that thing off and went, ah, like that. And man, it was the funniest thing ever to see just people. We were in Disney World, and kids would come up to him and say, "What happened to your arm?" And he would say, I jumped on a bomb in Vietnam. Or he would say, I got in a fight with a bear and a bear bit it off. Or I got in a fight with an alligator and an alligator bit it off. I mean, he would just make up the silliest things. Last thing on it, because I don't talk about my dad enough really to remember him by. And so thank you guys for letting me do this. But we were at church camp one year, and somebody had written a rap song that was called, it was based off the Jay-Z song, Hip Hop, Hip to the Hippie. Or no, maybe not Jay-Z, but a different, I can't remember exactly who sings that song, but it was based off that song. And it was
that hip hop song that I heard from Kangaroo Jack.
Maybe so. But so the lyrics were, throw your hands in the air like you do when you rap prayer. If you're spirit filled, born again, let me hear you say, oh yeah. And my dad got on the microphone up there with him and took his arm off, and it was holding it in the air saying, I throw my arm in the air. And then he was just freestyling. He threw it, and then he said, it landed over by that chair. And people were just cracking up, man. He had a really good personality about it. And dude, like one time I got into a fist fight with him one time, and he popped that arm off, and that nub could uppercut you at any. Man, I got my share of uppercuts too. Oh gosh, I miss my dad, man. He was gone way too soon for sure. But if anybody ever asks your questions, my love for the Mountaineers, it could never be that. He instilled it into me to the utmost level. We're proud West Virginians for sure. But on this show, obviously we cover all sports, but so every now and again I get into a tangent about my dad. They're always asking me to tell dad stories about my dad on Locked On Big 12 squad. So,
there we go.
Jackson, take us on out of here, man. How are we going to get out of this thing? What kind of outro are we going to have?
Well, I just want to say, tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that Mountaineer Paul, Troy, and myself are bringing all right here on the College Sports Insiders. And I guess I can go with the catchphrase for now where I say, I love for everybody to just roll damn tide. But Mountaineer Paul and friends here in Morgantown would love for you to never ever forget to cue those country roads. Y'all have a good one.